CEO's paralyzed daughter sat alone at her birthday cake until a single dad said, "Can we join you?" The birthday cake had 22 candles, and not a single person in the world knew they were burning. Sophia Hartwell sat in her wheelchair at the small corner table of the cafe, her hands folded quietly in her lap, her eyes fixed on the flickering flames as if she were watching something very far away slowly disappear. The rain outside streaked down the glass in long silver lines, and the city beyond the window moved in its usual indifferent rush, taxis honking, umbrellas bobbing, strangers hurrying past without a glance. She had chosen this cafe because it was neutral ground, not her father's penthouse, not the cold rehabilitation center where she'd spent most of the last 2 years, just a quiet corner in a warm room where nobody knew her name and nobody would pity her, and she could sit with her cake in her silence and pretend that this was a choice she had made freely, rather than the last option standing. Her father, Richard Hartwell, CEO of one of the largest pharmaceutical companies on the eastern seaboard, had called that morning. He had wished her a happy birthday in the practiced, efficient tone he used for everything: board meetings, press conferences, difficult conversations. He had mentioned something about a dinner later in the week when his schedule opened up. She had said that was fine. She had meant that it wasn't. But somewhere in the last 2 years of learning to navigate a world that wasn't built for her body, she had also learned to fold her grief into very small, very neat shapes and put them somewhere no one could see. The accident had happened on a Tuesday in March, 2 years ago. She had been 20, a junior at university, full of the specific and luminous confidence of someone who had never yet been stopped by anything. A drunk driver at an intersection had ended that version of her life in less than a second. The surgeons had saved her. The rehabilitation team had worked miracles. But when the doctors finally used the word permanent, something in Sophia's chest had gone very quiet, and it had mostly stayed that way since. Her friends had tried at first. They had visited, brought flowers, sent messages full of encouraging words and heart emojis. But grief is an uncomfortable thing to witness over a long period of time, and slowly, gently, the way tides recede, they had pulled back. Her father had responded the way he responded to every crisis, by throwing resources at it. The best doctors, the finest rehabilitation facility, a wheelchair that cost more than most people's cars. What he had never quite managed to provide was the one thing that couldn't be purchased: the simple willingness to sit with her in the quiet and not try to fix anything. So here she was, 22 years old, alone at a table with a cake she hadn't touched, in a city full of millions of people, feeling like the loneliest person in any room she entered. If this story is already moving something inside you, please take a moment right now to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to Kindness Corner, because we believe in the power of ordinary kindness to change everything. You being here matters more than you know. She didn't notice the man and the little girl until the child spoke, not words directed at her. Just a small, earnest observation made to her father, in the hushed, serious voice that young children use when they are reporting something important. The little girl, who couldn't have been more than 6 or 7, was pointing at Sophia's cake with wide brown eyes and saying something about how the candles were going to burn all the way down, and then the wishes would be lost. And didn't her daddy always say that lost wishes were the saddest thing? The man, tall, a little worn at the edges in the way of someone carrying something heavy for a long time, wearing a flannel shirt and holding a small wrapped gift that was clearly meant for someone else, looked up from his daughter and met Sophia's eyes. For a moment he simply looked at her, not with pity, not with the particular discomfort that she had grown so achingly familiar with, but with something quieter and more honest. Recognition, maybe, the way one person who has known real loss can see it clearly in another. He crossed the cafe slowly, his daughter's small hand in his, and he stopped at the edge of her table, and he said simply and without ceremony, "May we join you? My daughter is worried about your candles." Sophia almost said no. The refusal was already forming in her throat. The polite deflection she had perfected, the small smile that said she was fine, she was always fine, please don't make this into anything more than it was. But then the little girl looked up at her with those enormous, serious eyes and whispered that her name was Lily, and that today was her birthday too, and that her mama was in heaven, and sometimes birthdays were the hardest days, and Sophia felt something in her chest shift. That quiet, folded grief moving in a way it hadn't moved in a very long time. She said yes. His name was Daniel. He was a carpenter, he told her, as he settled Lily into the chair across from Sophia and ordered them both hot chocolate without making it seem like any kind of grand gesture. He had been raising Lily alone for 3 years, since her mother passed from an illness that had come quickly and taken everything with it. He had learned, he said, that the worst thing you could do on the hard days was pretend they were something else. So he and Lily had a rule: on the hard days you found someone else who was having a hard day, and you sat with them. Not to fix anything, just to sit. Sophia looked at this man, this quiet, ordinary, tired, kind man, and felt the completely unexpected and overwhelming sensation of being truly seen for the first time in 2 years. They sang happy birthday together, the 3 of them, quietly enough that the other cafe patrons only half noticed. Lily blew out the candles on behalf of both of them and announced very gravely that she had wished for something good for everybody in the room. Daniel cut the cake with a plastic knife from the counter and served it on napkins, and Sophia laughed, actually laughed from somewhere real, for the first time she could remember. They stayed for 2 hours. They talked about small things and large things. Daniel told her about the house he was renovating, about Lily's obsession with marine biology, about the particular silence of a home where someone used to be. Sophia told him about the accident, and about her father, and about the long invisible work of rebuilding a life that no longer looked like anything she had planned. She told him things she had not told her therapist, things she had certainly never told her father, things she had barely told herself. When she finally said goodbye and wheeled herself out into the evening air, the rain had stopped, the streets were wet and gleaming under the lights. She realized that something had changed, not in any dramatic storybook way. Nothing had been solved. Her father was still emotionally unavailable. Her legs still didn't work. The world was still full of staircases and narrow doorways and people who didn't know where to look, but she had spent 2 hours not being alone in it, and that, she understood now, was not a small thing. That was everything. Sometimes healing doesn't come from the people who have the most to give. Sometimes it comes from a tired man in a flannel shirt and a little girl with serious eyes who is worried about your candles going out before you've made your wish. If this story touched your heart, please comment the word candles below. Let us know this reached you. And if you made it here to the end of this story and something in it felt true to you, please share this video with one person today. Like it, subscribe to Kindness Corner, and leave us a comment telling us what this story meant to you. Every single comment reminds us why we do this. You are not alone in whatever you are carrying today. And sometimes, the most important thing in the world is simply someone asking if they can sit with you.